WWE WrestleMania 38 Night 1 is in the books. And man, I'm going to need y'all's grades right away in the chat. I'm talking 1 through 10, A, B, C, D, or E, or F. And what did you think of the show overall? Were you disappointed? Were you satisfied overall? Content? Did it exceed your expectations? Did it not meet your expectations? Were you expecting more out of the women's matches? Were you expecting more out of the Seth Rollins match? We got Stone Cold Steve Austin in the main event, and now that whole Kevin Owens show makes a lot more sense because, of course, Kevin Owens flat out challenged Stone Cold Steve Austin to a no-holds-barred match right there, which he accepted and did quite well for himself. I mean, you got to take into consideration Austin's age and where he is in his life, and him coming out of retirement to give this enormous WrestleMania main event rub to Kevin Owens warms good Mike Works' heart. So there were plenty of things on this show to be happy about, things that I enjoyed, and regardless of how bad WWE pisses us off on a weekly basis, I still, no matter how bitter I am in the product, I still find a way to really kind of enjoy and make myself enjoy WrestleMania weekend, no matter what, even if the card is what the fans consider to be weak. But I think tonight was a lot of fun. I was happy with most of the outcomes, really have no issue with any of them at all. And I thought the main event was nice because I think when you can come out of retirement, if you can come out of retirement and you do so in a way that not only it benefits somebody, but also you don't damage your legacy at the same time, then I'm all for it. You know, what is it's like The Rock and Austin, what do they need for their legacies? You know, these two guys are made. And if you find the right situation and the right situation comes along, you know, and to me, I wasn't thinking so much as Stone Cold Steve Austin was main eventing WrestleMania. I was thinking more along the lines of Kevin Owens was main eventing WrestleMania. To me, that was what was cool. And he just re-signed a few months back. Kind of makes sense why he signs now. And this guy, along with Seth Rollins, both of these guys took losses tonight. And mark my words, I think both of these guys will be world champion in 2022, despite the losses tonight at WrestleMania, because they, Seth Rollins is doing the best work of his career. And I think Owens now is a made man. And I think it's awesome that they both did the jobs, but did it well. And we'll talk about Seth and all that stuff later on with Cody. But to see Austin back in the main event, I was nervous. I was worried that, you know, it could be a stinker, but I don't think Austin would allow this to even happen if he didn't think. I think he could at least go out there and perform at a passable level, which I believe he did. And I'm pretty happy with the outcome and the way the entire main event went, and the crowd was really hot for it. They stayed hot for most of the night, which was also good. I think that's a positive. Even though they had a few dull moments, I think overall the crowd was pretty hot. They did drop a match tonight for some reason. New Day against Sheamus and Ridge Holland was supposed to take place, and that never happened. So I guess they did have some sort of time issues. They had to have the show wrapped up, I guess, maybe by they're at their central time or whatever the hell Texas is. So I don't know what was going on there, but they bumped New Day. Maybe they'll move it to tomorrow night because there is only 7 matches, 2 less matches than there were tonight or scheduled. So if they move New Day over there, then it's 8 matches apiece on each card, and it's much more even. So we'll see if they even do that or if they chuck it on the kickoff tomorrow for night 2. We're not sure. But overall, I'm going to go over here and say hi to the chat, see what you guys thought about it. Welcome to our WrestleMania Night 1 review. We're going to be here again tomorrow night, immediately following Night 2 for a review, and we'll probably elaborate a little bit more on tonight's show as well because the show just ended a few minutes ago. Everything's still fresh in my mind. All I've done is written down the results, so I'm going to have to kind of think on my feet. And as I talk here in terms of what I thought about this show, the highs and the lows, and to get an idea from you guys, in terms of what you thought and what you liked and did not like. But I think overall, just my bare opinion, I think tonight's show was good, not great. And I was happy especially with a couple of moments there, especially with Austin and Cody Rhodes. So you guys let me know what you think. Please hit the thumbs up button if you don't mind. If you are not a subscriber, please become one by mashing the subscribe button as well. Like I said, we'll be up here tomorrow night after night 2, and then the plan is to be up here on Monday as well for the post-WrestleMania Raw, which hopefully we'll see some returns. We got a lot of injured people right now, specifically some women, the Asukas, the Baileys, where are they at? Let's get them back. We might even see an NXT call-up since Braun Breaker lost clean apparently today at Stand and Deliver. I watched some of it, didn't watch all of it. And I had mentioned a couple of streams ago that don't rule out a Dolph Ziggler victory. WWE might want to put Braun Breaker right on the main roster right now, and that might be where they're going with this. So Who knows? We'll talk in general about what's been going on the last couple of days. I want to thank everybody who was here with us last night, streaming into the wee hours of the night, discussing SmackDown and reviewing the entire Hall of Fame and predicting tonight's WrestleMania. So if you want to hear my thoughts on the Hall of Fame and the Undertaker speech, you can take a look at that video on demand on the channel right now. And other than that, let me knock out some of these super chats. I'm not going to be able to say hello to everybody because we got to get moving tonight. There's probably going to be a decent-sized audience in here, but I do at least want to acknowledge these super chats and to hello to everybody that's here every single week, all the regulars here, all the monkey wrenches, all the people that are here with us each and every week talking about pay-per-views and WWE and Raw and Dynamite and doing watch-alongs. It's a blast on this channel. So like I said, make sure you subscribe. I want to say hello first of all to How Wheezy, Monkey Wrench Man. Appreciate that $5 from earlier. So Greg, where would you put Mania 38 night one as far as one of the best? That's what I'm going to have to gauge from a lot of you guys as we go through here. What would you rate the show? I got a 9 out of 10. Before I get to a couple other super chats, let me read some of these. We got an 8 show, 9, 10, A minus, 8, 9 out of 10, B plus, 8, B, 8.5. 9 out of 10. I guess I should just ask for one or the other, not both. You guys maybe we should just do this. What would you guys prefer, letter grades or number grades? Maybe we'll start doing that going forward. And tomorrow night we will rate the show using one or the other. Maybe numbers sounds about right. I'm usually better with numbers. A lot of 9s in there, 8s, 9.5, 8, nothing below 8 yet. There's a C. 9, 10 out of 10. Holy shit. Okay, so you guys are grading this show better than me. I was thinking it was a good show, but I thought there were a few moments there that fans would have issues with, but I'm happy that my audience liked the show. That is really awesome to see. Very cool. I mean, there wasn't too much to be disappointed about. I was even pleasantly surprised with Ronda and Charlotte. I didn't want Ronda to win. You know, I'm no Charlotte fan either, but in terms of those two, I just haven't been feeling this Ronda return. And when it comes to, you know, somebody who's in wrestling, comes from a wrestling family and is a main eventer and is on the roster every week and is a main player in WWE as opposed to a part-timer or an outsider, I'm always going to choose the wrestler in that situation. So I was happy that Charlotte pulled off the win. I'm just scrolling up here because I want to make sure I don't miss, any super chats, and I might scroll back to them so we don't spend too much time at once on those. So if I don't get yours to yours right away, we will be revisiting all of the super chats that I missed if I do miss any. Super Fluffy Toaster, appreciate the 5 from you. It annoyed me when people said Owens was being a fool by not going to AEW. He got in the ring with Stone Cold at Mania. Owens must be elated. I'm elated for him. I mean, there's plenty of people that I really wish could get out from underneath the foot of the WWE, but Owens is one of those guys that, even though I think it's a crime he hasn't made his way back to the Universal title yet after that really brief run in 2016 and 17, I don't think he's been treated unfairly. He's always been in top programs. He's always contending for championships, whether it be the world title, IC, US, whatever. He's got his own talk show. He's featured every week, even if we don't love what he's doing. And he gave Roman a hell of a run for his money earlier on last year, with the Rumble and all that stuff. So him re-signing with the company, there are situations where the grass is not always greener for everybody. There are, believe it or not, people who will do better in the WWE system over the AEW system. Now, I certainly believe that Owens would do well in AEW, but not main eventing WrestleMania against Stone Cold well, you know what I mean? So these are things that are probably discussed a lot with talent now when it comes to negotiation. So you have to wonder what's been discussed with Cody, because I don't think he would have been willing to make this move unless he knew they had some big plans for him. So a win tonight over Seth Rollins is a pretty good place to start. But overall, you're right. I'm happy for Owens, and I don't think it's an automatic that everybody would be better off in AEW. I think a good portion of underutilized talent in WWE can see, more success over there, but that's not always going to be the case. And I have no issue with Owens sticking around, and I love that he got this. I mean, Owens has a special place in my heart too. He's a Canadian wrestler. I love all of them. And, WWE wouldn't let him be Kevin Steen, and they made him pick a last name, and he picked Owens after Owen Hart. Even named his son after Owen. The guy knows his way to my heart, that's for sure. So I'm always going to have Kevin Owens back regardless of whatever company he works for. I don't give a fuck. I'm a Kevin Owens guy. So he can go work at McDonald's and I will still support him. I do not care. Stone Cold, appreciate the $2 from you as well. Great show tonight. That Cody pop was epic. That was goosebumps. We'll talk about it later, but I actually sat back. I turned off Twitter just in case I was a little bit behind. I didn't want anything spoiled. And I sat back and I actually put my arms behind my head and I just leaned back in my chair right here and watched. And I'm like, I just want to feel this. No social media, no other distraction, phone down, turned upside down. I just want to watch this. And as soon as the lights started going out, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And as we'll talk about later, it is a stupendously, no pun intended, rare event, like I've talked about before, for a piece of talent to jump ship and retain every single aspect of their persona, from their presentation to their entrance to their theme music to their gear, everything. It's only happened a few times in the history of the business, and Jeff Hardy and Cody Rhodes did it in a month. That's insane to me. And, in a lot of ways, we've talked about, CM Punk did too, but just for him to come in with the exact same presentation, no differences, no WWE style wardrobe for him, although they do already have a shirt up on shop. And he brought the song with him. He's carried the song. He had the song made on his own dime, I believe. So for him we were curious about that, if he was going to come in the same. And that really does feel like a true defection. Like you could daydream or make believe while you were watching his entrance that you were in the middle of an AEW and WWE supercard. You could, because you just saw Cody on AEW not that long ago. And I was so happy to see that, because I'm old enough to remember when defections were a regular thing back in the day. Today's generation has no fucking clue or concept about how fun defections can be. All they're concerned with is being on Twitter arguing that AEW only signs WWE guys and shit like that, because they just don't understand anything. So I just wish people can appreciate this no matter which way the talent is going. We saw Samoa Joe turn up in AEW. He's going to be on Dynamite on Wednesday. That's fucking awesome. So to see like Jeff go to AEW, Cody come to WWE, and guys moving around, this is what used to happen back in the day. That's why I laugh at all the fans that complain about these signings. And I'm like, all you're doing is showing your ass and your age. Because if you were around back in the day, you would see these defections were a totally normal thing. And back then, nobody was saying WCW only hires WWF guys, although they were doing that. So I think that you should appreciate moments like this, because they're going to be pretty rare. And Cody coming back to the WWE made me happy. I have no idea why I'm excited to see him. Your guess is as good as mine. WWE has been boring my balls off for the better part of a decade now. And everybody that goes to WWE, especially after they're called up from NXT, we are terrified for them because of what the WWE can do to them. So with all of WWE's failures, this company misses more layups than they make. They're worse at layups than Shaq is at free throws. It's fucking crazy, but they are. So I worry, we all do, we worry for people sometimes when they go there that they can fall victim to that just idiotic system. So despite all of that, I still somehow feel an enormous amount of excitement for Cody Rhodes being in WWE. I don't know how to explain that feeling. But he's a guy that I think likes the spotlight. He's the guy that wants as much exposure as possible, and WWE can give him that. I mean, he had a big time WrestleMania match that created a moment. WWE's all about moments. They create a lot more moments than they do good storylines. And they created one hell of a moment here with Cody Rhodes. And we thought they were going to troll us. I thought they were going to bring out Shane McMahon and everybody else and their mother to make us think that Cody wasn't coming, only to hit us with him when we weren't expecting it, maybe even pushing it to tomorrow night or something. But they didn't do it. They did it pretty much how AEW handled CM Punk. They didn't advertise it. The word was leaked. Everybody knew that CM Punk signed. They had the show booked at the United Center. Didn't say a word about it. They knew. The fans knew. AEW and the fans knew each other knew, but nobody said anything. And then, of course, CM Punk makes his debut, and it was an epic moment. And this was very similar to that. WWE just let it happen. They know that we know that Cody's there, and give us the moment. Just give it to us. And I think it was really well done. What do you think was better? That's a good Twitter poll. I should have put that up. Didn't think about it till now. What was the better moment? CM Punk returning in the United Center or Cody Rhodes coming out at WrestleMania? I still feel like CM Punk might get the nod for the emotion due to the fact that he was gone for 8 years. But the moment itself, the pop and the buzz and excitement it generated was pretty incredible on both. I think they're on equal footing in terms of that. But in terms of the importance, maybe the nod would have to go to CM Punk, but that's my opinion. Anyway, that's enough about the Cody Pop. We'll get back to it. Joshua, thank you for the $5. Hey, Greg, when Stone Cold walked, I thought it was you for a second. Oh, man, yeah. We are identical. Show was amazing. Can't wait for night 2. 8 out of 10. It was kind of funny, too, when Austin came out. I knew he was going to have that four-wheeler, even when they showed, they did the set reveal the other night or whatever. And I was like, I think Austin's going to be driving something down to the ring when he shows up because that's a long walk, and Austin's old, and if he's going to be working a match, he doesn't need to gas his ass before he even gets down there. So good stuff all around, and props to my dad or my brother. Austin had his brother in the ring with him tonight. How cool was that? Yeah, good stuff there from Austin. Loved it. Who was next? Deshaun, I believe. Deshaun, good to see you, man. Welcome back. Appreciate the $5 from you. Today was a fun day of wrestling, by the way. TakeOver, and tonight, hats off to all involved in WWE. Yeah, I caught a little bit of TakeOver today. New tag team champions, women's tag team champions, correct. And Mandy Rose did retain her title. And Braun Breaker went down to Dolph Ziggler. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. We got to talk about Mania first. Other than that, Salvador, thank you for the $5 as well. Didn't enjoy the ending, drinking beer and middle fingers. There are kids in attendance. All right, Grandpa, not my cup of tea, but everything else is good. God is real. Right on, Salvador. I understand. That was pretty much the norm back in the Attitude Era. That's what Austin was known for. I think aside from Austin, because those were his gimmicks, WWE does for the most part shy away from that stuff now. Their content is extremely fan-friendly. I can't see it getting even more PG than it is, to be honest with you. So Austin was a top star during an era that's now obsolete, so I can understand your thought on that, but you have to also understand who's doing it. Now, if a regular roster member, if this is Chad Gable coming out there drinking beer, shooting up middle fingers, that's one thing, but this is Austin, that's his gimmick. So I understand, though. Appreciate you being here, dude. More grades coming in, 10, 8, C's, 8, 7. Damn, y'all are being nice to the show. I'm actually happy to see that. I was worried we'd have some pissy pants in here. I'm really happy. Angie, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here as well. Victor Lambo, so many of the regulars in here. Happy to see you. And Michael Kumo, appreciate the $5 from you. If Owens wins the WWE title, this was the highlight of his career. It sure as shit would be the highlight of my career. Can you imagine what it must be like for Owens to be able to work with like one of your idols and bump for him and sell for him and make him look good? Man, if I got the chance to work with Bret Hart before he retired, I'd be squealing like a little bitch in there, just selling everything you put on me. Stretch me. Okay, now do me this way. Never mind. But yeah, I would be honored to squeal like a pig in the sharpshooter. I would absolutely love it. Owens was doing all he could to make him look good. Samuel, thank you as well for $5. What a WrestleMania. Kevin Owens and Stone Cold stole the show, but the whole pay-per-view was great. Cody and Seth were awesome, and Becky and Bianca also had a classic. So deliriously happy for Bianca. It's my girl. Very happy she won. I wasn't going to accept anything else other than her winning. I was pitching a squash. Thought there was still a chance it could happen despite the haircut last week, but we didn't get it. Actually got a pretty good match between the two. That's another poll question. Which women's match was better? Let me know in the chat. Ronda Charlotte or Becky Bianca? I think people are going to say Becky Bianca because of the outcome. Nobody likes Charlotte, right? Did I miss any else? Other ones? Yeah, I did. A few more, and then we're going to get to the results here, and I'll answer the rest of the Super Chats later. K-Dogs Kennel, good to see you again, Kevin. Thank you for being here. So proud for Cody. The crowd popped hard when he rose up from the stage. Where do you rank that ovation in Mania history? I got to go back and take a look at it because I only listened to it as it was happening. I'm tweeting, I'm doing stuff and not fully soaking it in. So I'll revisit that and try to get an idea of where it ranks. But until then, you guys can let me know where you think it ranks in terms of overall pops in WrestleMania history. It's up there. What a moment. How easy. 5 more from you. Going to be hard to top night 1 unless they have something major planned. I hope they do. I hope Brock and Roman really deliver tomorrow because they're going to have to. A lot of people are going to be watching that. Victor, appreciate 5 from you as well. Greg talking about AEW and WWE stars going back and forth. Remember when Rick Rude was on Raw and Nitro on the same night? Of course I do. I lived right through that. As a matter of fact, I was at the Raw, the next live Raw after Rude left. I was like in the 4th row for that. And front and center to watch them push over Harvey Whippleman and like acknowledge that Rude left. That was when they brought out the little mini Bret Hart and that whole deal. Yeah, I remember that well and fondly. Is there any other ones? One more. Elite, thank you for the $5 as well. Popped big for Cody. And when Austin called Owens a sack of shit, I did too. The way he delivered the sack of shit line was fucking terrific. KO and Rollins were MVPs tonight. 7.5 out of 10. That is a fair grade. I'm kind of with Elite on this one. I'm going to go 7.5 out of 10. I don't know if I can go 8, or can I? Can I go 8? Yeah, fuck it. I'll go 0.5 higher than you. I'm going to go 8, but not a bit higher than that. I did like the show, but I don't think I can give it higher than an 8. But it did a lot to impress me. And even the stuff that I wasn't expecting to impress did, like Logan Paul, who did really good. And I told you, didn't I tell you he was going to turn babyface? I said this on like March 8th. I even retweeted myself earlier. I'm like, up, as soon as Miz said that, Miz was saying something on commentary. I was barely listening. I just picked up. He was like, and I'm showing Logan Paul. He wouldn't know what he's doing without me. I'm like, there it is. I was like, he's going to do something in the match to turn on him or whatever, and Paul's going to, leave a babyface. But not until they won the match first, which was really crazy. Anywho, let's get into WrestleMania 38 Night 1 results. Before I do, please, thumbs up button, smash the hell out of it, and make sure you subscribe because we're going to be back up here tonight to talk about Night 2. And then, like I said, we're going to get back to all the Super Chats. Once we're done here with the results, we'll do some chatting. We'll answer some questions, all that stuff. So please hang out, crack open a cold one, and stay up late. It's WrestleMania weekend, and we got to do it again tomorrow night. I am stoked. Anyway, WrestleMania Night 1 had a 2-hour kickoff show, I believe, but no matches on this thing. There wasn't a match until the main card started, which I'm fine with. I don't even like kickoff matches, and I don't need them. And it was basically just a 2-hour highlight package for WrestleMania, hyping up each match. They had a panel outside. I think they even had a panel inside, doing a bunch of shit. Barely paid attention. They were just running through all the video packages throughout the entire day leading up to the show. So the main card opens up with the SmackDown Tag Team titles. The Usos defending against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. Now, Rick Boogs begins to play the guitar on stage. Out comes Nakamura. They're actually dressed alike. They look great together, kind of this yellow and orange type of deal. And I had said in the predictions last night that I was predicting the Usos to win here because I'm ready for Nakamura and Boogs to move on from each other. But then when I'm watching their entrance, I'm like, these two guys look like they're about to win some championship gold. They really do. This is the way they were dressed. And I'm like, well, maybe they're going to keep them together after all. But we had some sad news in this match. Boogs got legit hurt. I did not pick up that it was legit. I thought for sure it was part of the match. It looked like it was part of the match because he had already done some feats of strength on his leg. And something happened and his leg kind of buckled and he went down, and just the way he was selling it did not look real to me. And then the Usos wound up hitting the 1D for the win and retaining the titles. And then after the little commercial break or whatever they did, there was some pictures on Twitter floating around of him actually being carried back to the back to get medical attention. And then when we came back from the hype package or whatever they were playing, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee even mentioned that he's injured for real and they're wishing him well and they're sad to see it happen. So I'm like, oh shit, he really is hurt. It was reported later on that he did tear a couple of things and he's going to need surgery, so he's going to be out for a while. So I'm curious if that affected the finish. I don't think it did. I'm assuming the Usos were probably set to retain the whole time. I think they're setting up some sort of big bloodline celebration after Roman, I think, is going to beat Brock tomorrow. So the Usos keeping the titles did make the most sense to me, although maybe they called an audible there when Boogs went down. I don't know. But that's a bummer that he's out like that. And that's not the way I wanted Nakamura and Boogs to move away from each other. I've kind of been over this act. I didn't want it to happen like this. So that's a bummer. Best of luck to Rick Boogs. That guy is just a charisma volcano. And it always sucks when people like him and people like Big E are on the shelf because they just have so much to offer. Second match was Drew McIntyre against Happy Corbin. Really glad they got this one out of the way early. Not much to say here. I predicted Baron Corbin to win last night because I thought Drew coming out and claymoring him and pinning him would be, number one, awesome, but also be extremely predictable. And WWE, I think, made a big mistake of getting rid of bum-ass Corbin and and creating Happy Corbin because the fans prefer bum-ass Corbin. He was way more entertaining. So I kind of laid out this whole idea last night that Baron Corbin and Madcap Moss do something to cheat, get a cheap victory over McIntyre. He is then enraged and he challenges Baron Corbin to a match at the next pay-per-view, and he's willing to put his career on the line, but Corbin has got to put his fortune on the line, and then McIntyre wins, and Corbin goes back to being a homeless bum. That's what I was hoping they were going to do. But they kept it simple here. After the line they delivered last night on SmackDown about Drew McIntyre's mother, you knew he just needed to straight up beat Corbin, which he did. He did kick out of the End of Days as well, which I don't believe anybody's kicked out of yet. That's been a pretty protected finisher, and Corbin's even done well at WrestleMania. So Drew was able to kick out of that, and then eventually he would wind up hitting the Claymore for the win. Madcap tried to get involved a little bit, but he wasn't really much of a factor. After the match, when Drew was celebrating with the sword, Madcap is trying to get in the ring, and McIntyre backs him off, and then they do this spot. Is so silly. He takes the sword and he just slices through like the top two ropes, the top rope and the middle rope, but they time some pyro with the sword slashing. So as soon as it hits the ropes, you hear this boom. It was just dumb, but funny, I guess. And Drew was out there having a good time, and that's all that matters, I suppose. So McIntyre got the win there. Not a big surprise. Then we get the Mysterios against Logan Paul and The Miz. Now, Logan Paul had tweeted out or released on social media a photo of him earlier on in the day in his gear, which actually did look pretty good. Looked like wrestler's gear. Looked like a brighter version of something like Jay White would wear. And I really did like it. He looked good in it, even though I think he's a douche. And Miz and him were kind of both wearing this like yellow color coordinated outfit deal. They look pretty good. And then the Mysterios, my God, Dominic, with the Los Gringos Locos tribute gear, what Eddie and Art Barr wore in AAA. And as soon as he started coming through, I could see it. He was this big on the screen. I could see him way back there. I'm like, oh, Dominic. I knew exactly what he was wearing. And I was like fucking marking out. I was so happy. So that made me so happy. And, you know, if I had any reservations in my head or any sort of animosity towards Dominic for being booked on WrestleMania when Ricochet and Damian Priest and Finn Balor are not, that all kind of evaporated in that moment there, seeing Dominic wearing that shit. That was great. And we get to the match now, and Logan Paul, as we kind of expected, did pretty well for himself. There's a lot of outsiders getting in the ring lately. They're not doing bad. Paul is good. Look at how good Pat McAfee is doing. He's got a match tomorrow night, actually. So does Johnny Knoxville. But I kind of had a feeling that Logan Paul would be decent. I just don't like his name and his voice and his face and his hair and his clothes and his personality and everything about him. But I got to be honest, he still did well, and he fits wrestling like a glove. He's a guy like that with a dumbass attitude of his. He's tailor-made for wrestling. And he would be an easy guy to hate, even though they would go in the babyface direction here later. And in the match, he actually performs pretty well. You can tell he's been training. You can tell he's been working out. Ray and Dominic took care of him. And I think the spot that blew my mind the most was when he hit the three amigos on Rey Mysterio. Ray didn't hit them on Logan. Logan hit them on Ray, and actually hit him pretty well. And then, if that weren't enough, he goes to the top rope and then does the shimmy before frog splashing Ray for a near fall. Unbelievable. I cannot believe professional wrestlers let this guy do that. They must really... I mean, he was tributing Eddie, which I appreciate, but I just couldn't believe he was doing it as a heel, and you could have been mistaken for mocking. And I was like, is Rey Mysterio really okay with this? Like that he's doing this? My God. But he handled everything well. His moves looked good. I mean, for a guy that doesn't have much training, he looked to be in good shape. He was athletic. He was doing some pretty good stuff in there. In the end, he gets caught, isolated. We get a double 619 to his face from the Mysterios. The only problem is the Miz is still the legal man, so the Miz is able to sneak in there, sneak up from behind on Rey Mysterio and hit the skull-crushing finale and get the win for the heels and kind of steal it there as they had Logan Paul beat, but unfortunately he wasn't legal. The Miz was, and they win. The Mysterios powder out, and then my prediction of them having some dissension in the match and Logan Paul turning on him, and then the Mysterios getting the win and maybe celebrating with Logan Paul. They didn't really go in that direction. They just had the Miz flat out attack Logan Paul after the match. Attacks him, hits him with I think he hits him with the skull-crushing finale as well, and basically turns on Logan Paul. So we had a feeling that they would do that, and I wasn't sure if WWE is going to be able to get a guy like Logan Paul over. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of the audience was cheering when the Miz attacked him. Correct me if I'm wrong. But maybe his performance in the ring will be enough to sway the audience's opinion in his direction to where they will say, okay, maybe we'll give him a shot because he did perform well. He did. I don't like these fucking YouTube idiots that live in a fucking fantasy land like they do. They had the brother on the kickoff show because WrestleMania is too big for just one douche. So he was there, and I just don't usually like people like that, but there's nothing I can do about them being involved. So if they are going to be involved, all I ask is they don't embarrass themselves. And you know what? Logan Paul didn't. Did a great job. Hate to say it, just trying to be honest. We are impartial on this channel for the most part, and may not like him. He performed well. Then we get Becky Lynch against Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title. This match took place early on in the card because what are we on now? Just the fourth match, so about halfway through. And Becky comes out to a pretty cool entrance. They do this big moving graphic, kind of similar to WWE's Then Now Forever signature opening. And then she kind of comes out on the stage to like a motorcade of like some white SUVs. So she's coming out there like the fucking president. She's got a pretty cool entrance, new look. She's got some crazy makeup. She kind of looks like something out of the 80s there. And that haircut. You know, she got the haircut last week on Raw. It turned out to be for the better because she looks great with the bangs and everything. And Becky looked awesome. I don't know how she wrestled in those boots like that. Those things were ridiculous. But in terms of how she looked, I thought she looked great. And then Bianca also got a special entrance. She got like a marching band type of deal, which was awesome. The band came out and played, I guess, like a rendition of her song first, and then her song played over the system there, and then the band chimed in and kind of played along with the music. Really good. She looked great. Both of these women just were dressed spectacularly. Loved both of the outfits. And then it was time to get in the ring, so here I am. I'm like, okay, here we go. Are we going to get what I predicted? I really thought a fun full circle moment would be for Bianca to knock out Becky and pin her immediately, or pin her in under a minute. Something really fast, just to make up for what happened to her at SummerSlam. But I'm glad that didn't happen because they had a good match. They really did. It started maybe a little bit slow, but man, it picked up, and it picked up good. The crowd was into it. And, you know, to me, the more I was watching it, I was starting to second guess myself too. I predicted Bianca to win because I think that's the payoff you needed to do ever since you beat Bianca last year in the manner that you beat her in. And now if you crown her 2 years in a row at WrestleMania, that's really going to solidify her as a main player. And she should be. She's just ridiculously athletic. She's one of the best they have, if not the best overall. And I think she can be their next Charlotte if they don't fuck her up. So she needed to win here. But I was also wondering if this was, you know how I always talk on this channel about the right stage, the right environment. Is this the right time for this specific person to win? It's like when everybody got mad at Revolution because Thunder Rosa didn't win. I'm like, shut up. Let them wait 2 weeks and do this thing in the main event of Dynamite so Thunder Rosa can have her crowning moment in her hometown in a main event. You idiots. Don't get so mad. Fans live in the moment. They don't have any like big picture, capabilities whatsoever. So I was worried that Becky Lynch holding the title for 3 years, basically, or being unbeaten for 3 years. She was gone for a year being pregnant, but it was WrestleMania 35, that she won that title, and she was never beaten for it. And here we are, WrestleMania 38. Is she going to lose the title after that long on the fourth match of the card? Shouldn't this be a main event type of thing? So I was worried that they could go in the direction they went with Charlotte and Ronda later on and have Becky retain. And if she did, I think they would have created a new Charlotte. I think Becky might even have more heat than Charlotte if she was able to beat Bianca, because I think the fans would have really freaked out unless it was WWE's way of pushing Bianca's win to another show or something. So I'm glad we got what we got. They were all over the place. They were on the outside of the ring. They were brawling. Bianca came very dangerously close to being counted out at one point. But overall, I thought the match was really good. Now, it started, remember when I pitched the squash idea, it started out like that. Bianca Belair is able to snatch Becky Lynch and hit a KOD on her right away, but she counters. As Becky's falling into it, she counters and actually hits the manhandle slam instead, goes to pin Bianca, and my heart fucking skipped a beat. But it was a near fall, and then we got into the match. So after the brawling on the outside, and everything they did was pretty good, you get to kind of the climax here. You've got a 450 from Bianca Belair that she hits perfectly on Becky Lynch, and she kicks out. That was great. We get a manhandle slam onto the stairs on the outside. That's the spot I believe that Bianca nearly got counted out on. They find themselves back in the ring, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know what, it was almost similar to what this finish that Cody and Seth would do. it looked like Becky was almost starting to go for something, and I think Bianca just grabbed her and boom, and just picked her up like she was a doll, right up in KOD position. Boom, nailed her with it. 1, 2, 3, right in the middle, beat her clean. Perfect outcome, good little match. Enjoyed the finishing sequence, and especially when she lifted Becky up for the KOD, you could see the audience in the crowd in the background just starting to really come up out of their seats. So I loved to see that. That was good stuff. And she won again 2 years in a row at WrestleMania, and she beat Becky Lynch after losing to her at SummerSlam. I was there at SummerSlam to watch Bianca lose, and I didn't like to see that. So I'm really happy that she has now won the title twice at WrestleMania, 2 back-to-back years. Not many people have done that. And hopefully this run, obviously she is going to lose the title to someone. Someone will beat her for it, but hopefully the next time this happens, it won't be in a situation like we saw at SummerSlam. Maybe somebody will get an actual match out of her before they beat her, or they cheat to win or whatever. But this 5-second shit has got to stop. Don't do that again, WWE. Bianca is too good. So really happy for her. Obviously, this is probably going to mean some kind of a rematch, because Becky's not just going to go away and go feud with somebody else. Obviously, she's going to want to run this back, and they might have a pay-per-view or a match at the next pay-per-view that's probably a stipulation of some kind in the match for the title, and Bianca can win and then hopefully move on to another opponent. That's my guess. And another kind of outside-the-box prediction or idea that we had on the channel is that if they're really going to unify the titles tomorrow with Roman and Brock, what the hell are they going to do with the women's titles? And since they put both of these matches on night one tonight, I thought they might try to hotshot something where they're going to set up a unification match for tomorrow or something. And we didn't really get that tonight unless they decide to just announce something tomorrow. Who knows? They teased us tonight too. I think Stephanie McMahon came out to the stage to say some, I don't even remember what she said, but when she came out there, I was worried that, she was maybe going to announce some sort of unification tomorrow. So we will see if they do in fact do that, maybe on Raw or in the future. But I am skeptical if we are getting a unification tomorrow. But if we are, you got to think they're going to have to do the same thing with the women's titles. So that didn't happen. Bianca Belair beats Becky Lynch clean, wins the title. So happy for her. We'll see how far they take this feud. I still think the idea that I had of Bianca Belair's braid being chopped off could still happen. If you want, could be the ultimate revenge for Becky. Not only did Bianca take her hair, but she took her title. So now Becky's going to want to take something of hers. They could, run an angle on Raw or in a week where they do that, setting up the pay-per-view match next, where it's some sort of a stipulation, if it's a cage or if it's Falls Count Anywhere, whatever they want to do. Probably something a little violent. Might be fun. So we will see. During that match, apparently there was, I think Fightful had released a match order that they had picked up on. I never saw it, so I had no idea of the order of any of these matches. But as we were watching this, I was like, you know what? That Seth Rollins match is probably up next. I don't think they're going to put the two women's matches back to back, so we're probably going to get Seth next. And we did. So out comes Seth Rollins. He's dressed like $1,000,000. Loved what he was wearing. He wears the craziest shit. This was almost a ring gear and suit combo, and looked great. Very Ric Flair-like, super styling and profiling out there. And here he comes down to the ring. And that's when like I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast here, that's when I kind of just sat back and just chilled out and said, I'm just going to soak this in. I want to see what this is going to be like. I want to see who his opponent's going to be. I don't want to be spoiled about anything. And I was expecting WWE to perhaps take us on a little troll ride there, bringing out Shane McMahon or bringing out anybody they could to kind of just mess with us a little bit. But once Seth got in the ring and he was dressed to wrestle and he was just basically, ready, I'm like, they might do it. And then when the lights went down, I'm like, oh, the lights went down before any music started. That's like Cody's trademark. I'm like, well, it ain't going to be Shane McMahon. I can't imagine the lights going out for Shane. You know what I mean? The lights would either go out for Cody or Undertaker or The Fiend. So once they went down, I was like, this might be it. Somebody had also told me that they recognized a trapdoor on the stage earlier on in the show, and that's kind of how Cody makes his entrance. And then you hear there's only one royal family in wrestling or whatever it is, and Cody's music plays, and he basically gets the exact same treatment that he got in AEW. Comes up through the thing in the middle with the lighting. He's got the same gear. He has his song. And to me, that's just incredible. Crowd popped crazy for that. Like I said, I got to go back and watch that whole entrance again just to soak it in, because by then I was marking out, I'm tweeting and doing all this stuff, and I'm not really just watching it. I just needed to see who his opponent was going to be, and then I went into meltdown mode. So I'll watch it again just to kind of take it all in, but it felt like a Mania moment to me. It felt awesome. It felt like a moment that is few and far between these days. I mean, my God, the shit that WWE gives to us and the horrible just state of their product, the fact that moments like this can still be created in 2022 is pretty amazing, and almost gives me a little bit of hope for wrestling sometimes. And this was just amazing. Fucking goosebumps. Loved it. Coming down to the ring, WrestleMania, you could see the emotion on his face. This was probably very important for him, for his dad too. After the match, you saw him, kind of acknowledge Dusty a little bit. And WWE, because they, use Dusty's name a lot in NXT and stuff, they're really going to really honor Dusty a lot through Cody, I think. And he's going to, Dusty, not that he's not already with Cody in AEW, but I think even more so in WWE, because Dusty was there kind of until the end. He was basically working there when he died. So there probably is a sense of homecoming for Cody. And for all the fans that don't understand why he left AEW, or he's bitter, or they're bitter towards him, this is his decision. He's another guy that maybe WWE's just better for him. I do know that there's an interview that just got released. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. He does open up a little bit about that, but he doesn't go into detail about his AEW departure. But you got to think him coming to WWE is just something that he wanted to do for his career and his legacy. And he seems to be fine with it. I don't think any fan should be upset or bitter towards this at all, for him making the jump, because that's just what business and wrestling is all about. Regardless of what he said in the past, he felt that WWE was the best place for him. And like I said, it could be kind of a homecoming, because he was there only 6 years ago. There's a ton of people in the company that he knows and is friends with, I'm sure, and probably kept in touch with while he was gone. He still probably recognizes a ton of backstage people. In a lot of ways, he is coming home. He spent a lot more time in WWE than he did AEW. It's bizarre that he was an executive and now he's in WWE. It really felt, and I think that's part of the reason why they might have kept everything with him intact and agreed to keep everything intact, is because it really does feel like they took a major player away from the competition, and they did. No two ways about it. So I just think that's great. I like seeing more of that. I mean, it's been very AEW heavy so far, because they've been taking the Moxleys, the Daniel Bryans, the CM Punks, guys like that have been more attracted to go to AEW. So when WWE can score one, I mean, this is a big deal. And this is going to be something that, guess what, isn't going to end. We're going to deal with this pretty much on a yearly basis. People moving around, jumping ship. And every now and then it will be a major star. Every now and then the Codys, the MJFs, the Hangman Pages, the Kevin Owens, the AJ Styles, guys like that, contracts will come up, although Owens and Styles aren't going anywhere, but you know what I mean, guys like that on both sides. And every now and then it's going to be a major star, and there will be at least a chance that a major star could make the jump. And you got to think about the WWE's women's division. I mean, eventually you could be seeing a Bayley or a Sasha potentially make the move one day. So when that happens, it's going to be awesome and it's going to be special. And don't get your panties in a bunch over it, because it's fun and it's awesome. So once we get the big entrance, the big Cody entrance, and he's in the ring, Seth Rollins is kind of no-selling it at first. He's laughing as Cody's making his entrance, like, this guy from AEW, whatever. And he gets in the ring, soaks in the moment. It's so awesome. And the bell rings, and now we get Seth Rollins against Cody Rhodes, a match on paper that's going to be beautiful. Now, I think the fans were slightly gassed at first. Speaking of being gassed, I think Cody was a little bit too. But I think the fans were a little bit spent after the Bianca victory, followed by the Cody Rhodes entrance. Those two things, I think took a lot and expelled a lot of energy. So when the match started, I think it was a little bit slow and the fans were a little bit quiet. But Cody and Seth did not panic. They did not deviate. They just went along with their match. Eventually, they pulled the fans back in. And by the time you got to the end of this thing, the fans were invested. They were reacting to everything, doing the yays and the boos. This is awesome, popping for near falls, the whole deal. But I think it started a little bit slow and maybe even a little clunky or botchy at times. I got to say, I'm going to be honest, I think Seth Rollins carried the match. I think that Seth Rollins deserves a ton of credit for not only carrying the match here, but making Cody look really good. Sold his nutsack off for Cody, made him look like $1,000,000, and put him over as a big deal because that was Seth Rollins' job. And like I said, Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, I believe, will both be rewarded for their part in WrestleMania. And I think they're both, at least one of them, but I think both will find a way to get to championship gold sometime this year, unless we only have one title. If we don't, then, it might be Seth Rollins to be the guy to beat Roman Reigns. I don't know. So somebody's going to have to beat Roman or Brock at some point. But if we still have two titles, I don't see how you can avoid making one or both of these guys world champion again, at least sometime in the somewhat immediate future, or somewhat near future, I should say, because they're too good not to. Despite Cody being maybe a little bit slow, he still did a great job out there. He was really working hard. Seth Rollins was able to kick out of one of his crossroads. I think the craziest, and earlier on in the match too, they did spill to the outside, and Cody got nailed with a buckle bomb right into the barricade. It looked like he was struggling, or I guess Rollins was struggling to get him up, and he was kind of walking around. Then he just threw him. He literally threw him right into the barricade, and it was just an ugly looking bump. And back in the ring was where Cody is able to catch Seth with one of those early crossroads, which Seth kicks out of. The craziest spot in the match, I don't even know. I'm sure that Seth's even done this. It just looked crazy. It looked like something I haven't seen before. This motherfucker does an inverted superplex onto Cody, which is a scary enough bump to take as it is. And they took it flawlessly, by the way, perfectly. But then as he nails it, he rolls through and he's bending Cody's back and neck back. And you can see the look on Cody's face is like, God damn, he's like really being bent back. And he rolls through it again and hits him with another one. I couldn't fucking believe it. That was awesome. Cody somehow survives this, winds up hitting a Cody cutter onto Seth a little bit later on. And it was funny when Cody was getting up, I was worried that he was tired, and I see him running towards the ropes, but then he had his legs, got on the ropes, springboard, bam, nailed Seth Rollins with the Cody cutter perfectly for another really close near fall. Seth also is able to recover and hit Cody Rhodes with a pedigree for a near fall. Cody kicks out of that, and Cody teased a pedigree on his own. The finish was great. Loved it. Cody is able to catch Seth Rollins. It looked like Seth might have been going for the stomp, because I think Cody was down on his knee, and it looked like Seth was going to go hit the ropes, but Cody just kind of bounces up, snatches Seth by the hair, grabs him quickly, yanks him into a crossroads, and then picks him up and hits him with another one, which he sold beautifully, and then picks him up to seemingly go for the third, but then lifts him up instead and starts hitting him with the dusty punches and hits him with the bionic elbow, and then grabs him and hits him for the third crossroads, which Seth just spun around on his head like a corkscrew for the win. Big win for Cody. Welcome back. Amazing match, fun match. I got to give both guys credit because the crowd was a little bit lost at first, and they were able to draw them back in. They told their story. They're two pros that know what they're doing, and I thought the entire match was really, really well done and put together. So props to both guys there, and welcome back, Cody Rhodes. Really interested to see what he does now in WWE. Curious if this is going to be a program with Seth Rollins. It probably is. If Seth's going to get another match, maybe they work again at the next pay-per-view. Perhaps Seth even gets a victory. Who knows? We'll find out. But Cody, at least for now, is back, and I guess he's going to be on Raw. We'll probably see him on Monday night doing something with Seth Rollins. I'm sure there will be some sort of an interaction between the two on Monday, a promo, or Seth will come out and complain or whatnot. But they might get another match, and that'll probably be booked sooner rather than later. I guess if I had to guess, Cody will have a promo on Monday, I would think. Don't think he's going to open the show. I think Brock or Roman will do that, but maybe at the top of the first hour, you have Cody open up the show. Maybe Cody even is in the main event segment. That's possible too. And he comes out to explain why he's back in the WWE and what his plans are. And then that's where you have Seth Rollins come out and confront him, and something happens, and we set up a match at the next pay-per-view. So Cody's back. That's awesome. I thought the return and the match here was everything I wanted. It, didn't really let me down in any way. We speculated and we came up with a million different ways and ideas to get Cody in the ring here and make this match happen. And I'm kind of happy with what they gave us here. It was simple. It was to the point. And really, honestly, that's all I needed. It would have been fun if they trolled us a little bit. But when the cat is out of the bag to this degree and it's going to be Cody, what's the point? So It was a great moment. Great moment. I think it's one that's going to go down as one of those kind of modern moments. The Hardy Boys return at 33 is kind of like that, and I think Cody is going to be up there with that. Right after that was when they announced the attendance. Was this Stephanie? Is that what Stephanie announced when she came out? I can't remember. At some point in the night, they announced the attendance. They did not draw 100,000, only 77,000 in attendance for this. Now, you do have to keep in mind this is 2 nights. However, they were able to pull in 100,000 for Roman and Triple H in that terrible WrestleMania 32. But since you do have 2 nights of tickets to sell here, it does make sense that they weren't able to pack 100,000, and 77,000 is still really good, padded or not. Even if they added 10 grand or 10K to that, you still are up there in the 60 to 70,000 range, and that's still really good. So that was our attendance for WrestleMania. Before we get into the Charlotte and Ronda match, let me just pause here, take a quick break, and go over to the chat, knock out some more super chats, and take a breather. Making sure I'm looking good over there. Yeah, I got a few of these. I'm going to knock them out now so I don't have them piling up later on. And then we'll talk about Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. By the way, you guys could do me a favor and hit the like button if you don't mind. Would appreciate that. Oh, almost lost myself. Sorry, just get my ducks in a row. I've got windows that aren't where they need to be, and I just want to make sure I can read all of the super duper duper chats, y'all. All right, here we are. Was it Deshaun? Nope, it's not. Oh, crap. I refreshed the page, and now I've lost some of those supers. I got to go backwards. I got to go over here and watch them or read them. Here we go. Adam O. There you are. That's who I'm looking for. Adam O. Thank you for the $5 earlier on. How about a too early WrestleMania 39 match prediction? Orton versus Rhodes would be fun. Orton turns on Riddle, a rehash of their time in the Legacy. That's a long way away. I think we could get Orton and Cody way before that. I think Orton and Cody could have some interesting interactions on Raw as well, especially if Cody is going to be on that show, and especially if they do maybe a backstage thing. That's what would be cool. What would be cool? I can't even talk. If Riddle was backstage goofing off or something, and then like Cody approaches him, and then Riddle's like, "Oh my God, Cody, I saw you in A&W," or maybe he'll say the wrong name of AEW or something like that, and just be all Riddle-y, you know. And then Orton will show up, and Cody, it's good to see you. They'll hug each other, and maybe Riddle is a little skeptical or jealous maybe of Cody because he wasn't aware that, you know, Randy had a former BFF before or somebody else that was with him before, and maybe that makes Riddle uneasy. I don't know. They could do something like that. But just any sort of Cody and Randy Orton interaction at all, even if it's just playful, I think will be fun on Monday Night Raw for sure. Looking forward to Raw on Monday, and I don't often say that. I play video games on easy mode. So do I. Thank you for the $2. Send the Paul brothers to North Korea. I don't know. We're not trying to kill these guys. I just think that they suck. Damn, this thing's glitchy. There we go. How Wheezy, appreciate 5 from you. Call me crazy. Gable Stevenson versus Braun Breaker will headline a Mania together one day. That's what Stephanie did. She brought out Gable Stevenson, right? I forgot about that. So Stevenson and Braun Breaker headlining WrestleMania. WWE certainly seems to be into Stevenson. I haven't really seen him work in the ring. He doesn't, to me, look as intimidating as somebody like a Brock Lesnar, but, you know, they're not going to, that gold medal thing is very attractive, and that got him a job. And apparently he's very good because WWE is making a big deal about him, and it looks like they're going to push him. But I haven't even seen his movements in the ring. I have no idea how he even looks in a professional wrestling ring, so I'll reserve my my criticisms of him until I see. But yeah, they both look like they're guys that WWE is setting up to, you know, somebody's got to succeed Roman at some point. So right now they don't have that next Roman. They need to be looking for him. And Breaker, so far, is a really good candidate. JJ Leg, welcome back. And it's great to see you too, dude. Thank you for the 5. Hey, Greg, had to drive home from my girlfriend's night 1 was awesome. And I think I'm getting her into wrestling too. She said Becky looked like David Bowie. She did a little bit. She definitely did. She definitely had a look of that like 80s British rock look, kind of. I liked it. I thought it was badass. Deshaun, thank you for 2 more. I just sent you a picture of the Young Bucks' new bio. Oh, Lordy. Can't wait. What the fuck? I thought we were all doing All In too. That's funny. See, at least they're being funny about it. This is what can be fun, you know? The fans are the ones that take this shit too seriously. I kind of like that that the wrestlers just kind of have fun with each other about it. And all the AEW eyeballs were watching Cody tonight. Some of them were probably wondering what the hell was going on and still in disbelief that he did that. And others are very happy for him. Others might be mad. But overall, it seems like everybody's just cool. It's the fans that are the ones with the stick up their ass. Wrestlers are cool. Got that one already from JJ. Deshaun, I got you that one. I got that one. All right. There we go. Would you... Zane, thanks, dude. Welcome back, dude. Very generous super chat from you last night as well. I appreciate that. Would you stick Cody Rhodes immediately in title contention, maybe a second tier? Yeah, I kind of think that's the plan for him. I think he's going to be a big deal. Like I said, I don't think he would have re-signed. I mean, look at what guys who have recently re-signed with the company are doing right now. AJ is working with Edge at WrestleMania tomorrow. Owens got a main event spot against Steve Austin. They both recently re-signed. Don't you think WWE probably mentioned a few of these things to sweeten the pot? Oh, and Sami Zayn is another one, working with Johnny Knoxville. All that exposure in the mainstream and in the talk shows and all of that, working with Johnny Knoxville is a perfect thing for Sami Zayn to do because he's so goddamn entertaining. It's a perfect thing for him to do. He can have his 5-star NXT matches with Cesaro 5-6 years ago. This is now. And for him to be working on this level is pretty awesome. So I would think that, with Cody, could be the same thing. These are things that could be discussed prior to him signing. It's like, okay, look, we have big plans for you. We're going to put you at Mania as a mystery opponent against Seth Rollins. Then we're going to book you in a title program right after that. They could be discussing these things. So yeah, I don't think Cody would put pen to paper and just completely sign his life away for WWE to do to him whatever they want. If he doesn't want to be Stardust, I would say, I am not signing unless you promise to not make me Stardust. I think all of this stuff could potentially have been at least worked out or discussed in his contract and everything. So yeah, I think he will be a top tier guy immediately. Isaiah B, appreciate 2 more from you. WWE posted Cody interview. Check it out when you can. Yeah, I think that's that's the interview that I've already seen a few transcripts from. I will check that out in its entirety later on tonight once we get out of here. I think that'll catch up the super chats for now. I just did not want to leave too many of those hanging. And like I said, you see that thumbs up button down there? Mash it. Mash it hard. So next up, we have Charlotte taking on Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's title. If these women can just do the match and not do any build at all, I kind of would be into the program. I'd be into the feud. Because every promo has put me to fucking sleep. They bore you to death. Nobody cares what they have to say. Nobody cares about their stupid, ridiculous fucking dialogue. Nobody cares, literally at all. Like, I did not care. I skipped every segment between the two on SmackDown, didn't listen to a word of either of their promos at all any week leading up to this because they suck. So at least going into this match, we knew the match was going to be better with the build. It has to be because both these women are pretty good in the ring, and there's no way it can't be worse than the build. The build was as bad as you can get. The build was as uninspiring as you can possibly get. Neither woman did anything that made me excited to see this match any more than I would be if I just saw the 2 names written on the marquee, because that's all I need. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte. I know who both of those women are. I know their personalities. I know what they would say to each other if there was a promo battle, so I don't need to fucking hear it. I just need to see the match. And the match was pretty good. I mean, Ronda's put on a little weight, and I still think she's moving pretty good. When she came in, she was much smaller, but now, like after the baby, she's wrestling with a little bit more power, and she was able to really use that a little bit. The way she was kind of taking Charlotte over and stuff, I really liked. And it felt like she had a little bit more of just a power advantage, which I liked. And I thought the match was really good between the two. I mean, Ronda's been a little touchy since she's been back, but overall, I was happy with the match. So that's kind of what I want to ask you guys. Do you think this one was better in the ring, or do you think Becky and Bianca was better in the ring? I honestly don't know. I kind of like both these matches. Like I said, I think the fans are going to automatically say Bianca just because that has a pleasant outcome. And this one, no matter what you got here, probably wasn't going to be that pleasant. But I think the match was decent, and that's all I really wanted. I just wanted this match to be good because the build was so bad that at least make the match in the ring good so it's not a total waste, and they did that. I think both women pulled that off well. So the match is going along. I didn't write down specific spots. It's a 4-hour show. But they do a spot near the end. By the way, Uncle Charles, Little Nate, a guy that Charlotte's basically grown up with as your referee for this thing. So I thought they might could do a conspiracy thing if they wanted to. And it made me think of that when Charlotte got pinned, but her foot was on the rope, and Charles Robinson didn't see it. So he actually counts the 3. And as soon as he counted the 3 on Charlotte, I was like, she's winning. She's winning. They're going to do that. That gives Ronda an out or protects her somewhat, or it gives her a reason in her next promo as we're sleeping through it to say, hey, you had your foot on the rope. I had you beat. I want a rematch because I had you beat. And she'll probably say it just like that too. So that all happened. And I was like, well, that's to me spoiling the outcome that Charlotte, hook or crook, is going to find a way to win this match. And I thought it was going to be right there because after she recovers, of course, Ronda's mad at Charles Robinson for the false finish there. And then Charlotte comes from behind and hits Ronda with a natural selection. I thought that was the finish. Ronda kicks out. Very dramatic near fall there. That was great. Little Nate winds up right after that getting speared by Charlotte. He goes down. Ronda snatches Charlotte, locks her in an armbar. Charlotte's tapping like a motherfucker, but Little Nate is knocked out. So Ronda lets go of the hold, and she's trying to revive the referee, and then Charlotte recovers, and I think she just catches Ronda with, a boot or a kick or something like that? What did she hit her with? Hit Ronda with something. She goes down. Of course, now Charles Robinson is all better, and he counts the 3, and Charlotte retains. So I'm wondering, just based on the foot on the rope thing and the way she speared Robinson, do you think they might go in a direction where it was a conspiracy between the two of them to help her win since he is basically family to her? I don't know. But I don't have any problem with Charlotte winning. I've been pretty underwhelmed and not very enamored at all with Ronda's return and run here since she's been back. And I didn't really need to see her win. I thought for sure Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar could potentially both be capturing championship gold on each respective night at WrestleMania, but now it's starting to look like they both might lose, and that's good. And it does give Charlotte another big victory at WrestleMania. I know that rubs everybody the wrong way. I had a couple people tonight were telling me, like, can it be anybody else but Charlotte? And I'm like, well, in this match, you only had 2 options. Sorry. If Ronda wasn't going to win, then there's only one other person to win, Charlotte, because she's in the match. So really your problem should not be with the outcome. It should be with the match itself taking place. So now that Charlotte won, she really ramps up her singles record. She's got to be undefeated in singles, right? Help me out. What is Charlotte's record at WrestleMania? Has she lost at all? She might have lost at 33. Wasn't there a multi-woman deal there? And she technically lost in that. And then she lost at 35 in the triple threat. To the best of my knowledge, those are the only 2 losses, right? The rest of them are victories over Asuka, Rhea Ripley, now Ronda Rousey. And then she won the title in that building, right? At WrestleMania 16. That was when the belt transferred over from the Divas to the women's title, and she was crowned as the first champion. So at least one-on-one, she's undefeated. She's only lost in multi-person matches, and I don't know if that one at 33 she was pinned or not. I have no idea. So eventually, somebody's going to have to beat her at WrestleMania. Eventually, somebody's going to have to put down the queen clean in the middle of the ring, and when that happens, that person will be made. So I'm always kind of like the big picture guy. It's not like Charlotte was in the ring with Rhea Ripley or Asuka again, where this is some lost where you're throwing your hands up in the air. It's always Charlotte. Who cares? She beat Ronda Rousey. This should make you happy. You should always choose the pro wrestler side. Never choose the outsider side. Charlotte has been there, working hard, been an active pro wrestler on the main roster, working full-time for years. Ronda comes in with a cushy contract, and is working somewhat part-time. She's an outsider from a different form of combat sports. We don't want her to win. So take Charlotte's side. So in this, I don't really think this specific match there's any real reason to be upset. I just think fans hate Charlotte in general. So if you're mad about this match, you're just creating shit to be mad about. You can start being mad again when Charlotte works with the next up-and-coming star or something and doesn't put her over. But in terms of this match, I don't care. I'm glad that Charlotte won. And the longer she continues to create this WrestleMania legacy, the more Cena and Roman or Brock or Austin or Hogan-like she gets, which means when these losses do occur and they happen at WrestleMania, it should be a big deal. So Charlotte has got an impressive record at WrestleMania. What if she goes into WrestleMania next year? I actually hope she does. Fans will probably get mad if she drops the belt this year and then wins it back later in the year. That's okay. Let her go into WrestleMania next year as champion, because she just might face the next winner of the Royal Rumble. She might face somebody that actually hasn't won a championship yet, and she can put her over. She's been chomping at the bit, I think, to put over Naomi. She loves Naomi. Don't know if they can stretch that a whole year away, but she might put over Naomi this year. I think Naomi would be a great candidate to beat Charlotte for the title, as a matter of fact, if she can survive the feud with Ronda Rousey. But I have a feeling that Ronda will still get the title. I think the next time Ronda and Charlotte face, and there will be a next time, I do think Ronda will win. But at some point near the end of the year, I can see Charlotte winning the title back. Of course, fans are going to freak out because they're going to think that means WWE only pushes her, but I think it's going to be to set up for her to lose to somebody at WrestleMania and drop the title to them. That's what I hope they do. So we'll see where Charlotte and Ronda goes from here, but in terms of their match, no problem with it at all. We'll finish up now finally with the main event, the Kevin Owens show with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then we will hang out and finish answering the super chats and doing all that kind of stuff with you guys. The main event was basically confirmed the last couple of nights on television, even last night on SmackDown. I think it was Cole referred to this segment as the main event. So it's the Kevin Owens show now. He comes out first, makes his big grand entrance. They've got shit in the ring, the chairs, and the Kevin Owens set, and it looks like it's going to be the regular Kevin Owens show. At least that's how we're going to start out. Now, prior to this, all week long for the past few weeks, once it was announced that it is going to be a segment, we all thought maybe that was done because Austin's going to protect his legacy. Maybe he doesn't want to have his last match with The Rock undone. Maybe he's satisfied with that. Maybe he doesn't want to risk physically not being able to perform and then doing what Shawn Michaels did. And now he's got to have to live with that shit. And Austin doesn't want to do that. So we thought that it was just going to be a segment. Austin's going to kind of make a compromise. Okay, I'll do the Kevin Owens show. We'll have a fight. I'll beat him up, but I don't want it to be official match. So the fact that this was the main event was kind of interesting because this is a segment that's going to main event WrestleMania for like the first time ever. So Owens is in the ring. It's time for Austin to come out. The glass shatters. Of course, he gets the Austin ovation, which just looked amazing in the Dallas or in AT&T Stadium there. And the crowd is loving it. He comes out to the stage. He's saluting everybody. And then he turns around and just starts walking away and leaves. And I said right there, I'm like, he's going to get an ATV. Look at how long that ramp is. This guy's got to have a fight. He's got to have a scuffle. He has to get physical. He's going to run out of gas by the time he gets down there. So he goes and gets the ATV, drives that thing down all the way to the ring, and salutes the crowd on the corners just like Stone Cold does. And then it's time for the Kevin Owens show, and they actually sit down in the chairs, and Owens tears up some of the set first and insults Kevin Owens, I believe. And then Owens informs Austin that he tricked him. I just told you to come on this show to trick you to get here because my intent was not to have you on the KO show. My intent was to fight you. And then he lays down the challenge right there. I am challenging you right now to a match. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, okay. Now this being in the main event makes a lot more sense. You know, in kayfabe now, this kind of protects Austin, putting him in a situation where he really has no choice but to do the match. Otherwise, he's going to look like a huge puss. So if he says, no, I'm not going to fight you and then leave, that's not how WrestleMania is going to end. So Kevin Owens putting Austin on the spot, challenging him to a no-holds-barred match, which is another good idea. Make this thing a brawl where they can go do stuff where not everything is focused right in the ring. Challenges Owens challenges Austin to the no-holds-barred match. And, of course, Austin leaves it to the crowd. Now, I was hoping, I kind of had this idea that it would be cool, but I think this would have stolen the thunder from both guys, so it didn't make sense to do it. But it would have been cool if The Rock came out. Didn't come all the way to the ring, just came out to the stage, got on the mic, and gave Austin his blessing. Austin, open up a can of whoop ass on his monkey ass, something like that. You've got my blessing. Of course, your last match was against me, but I think this guy deserves an ass kicking, so go get him, Stone Cold, that type of thing. A little pat on the back, little attaboy. would have been fun, but he never came out. Austin just leaves it to us. He leaves it to the crowd. He goes, if you want to see Austin kick this sack of shit's ass, whatever he said about sack of shit, delivered the line perfectly, popped me, cracked me up. And of course, everybody gives the hell yeah. And Austin agrees, and now it's time for the match. They kick all the shit out of the ring. They throw the chairs out. Austin's wearing his classic jorts with the jean shorts with the knee braces and the Austin 316 t-shirt. So he's basically in wrestling gear. Ironically, it's the exact same outfit he wears to the store. And just ask Booker T how that worked out when he decides to wear that shit. So he agrees. Everything's cleared out of the ring. He calls for a referee. Referee comes down. And I think one of the biggest pops of the night was the bell. The bell going off. Ding, ding, ding. Crowd exploded. And I'm sitting here going, holy shit. I'm sitting here right now watching a Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling match. It's 2022. He hasn't wrestled in 19 years. And now we're actually getting a match. The bell rings, we get a stare down, and boom. The punches start flying. Both guys exchange punches. Austin backs down Owens, gets him in the corner, does the mud hole thing, stomps him pretty good. That was all fun. They then begin brawling on the outside. And at this point, my eyes are on Steve. I'm just watching him, watching his movements. He definitely looks old. He looks in great shape on those Broken Skull sessions. Doesn't look like he's aged a day. But here, he's kind of like me now. I got the little belly. My six-pack's kind of gone away now. And he's, kind of hobbling around like an old... I mean, even I kind of limp around sometimes. And Austin's got a decade plus on me. Plus, he's had an in-ring career for so long. So he's moving around pretty good. I'm satisfied with it. I'm not worried about it. He looks a hell of a lot better than Goldberg does sometimes in terms of, his movements and stuff. So I'm feeling good, even though I'm still nervous because I'm just worried about Austin. I just want to make sure he can get through this. And then it also doesn't, tarnish his legacy, or there's not some embarrassing moment here or he falls down or something. Like, I don't want any of that to happen. So I'm nervous, but it's a good nervous. It's an exciting nervous. And like I said, I'm just soaking in the surrealness of watching a Stone Cold Steve Austin match. There are people, possibly even in this chat, most likely, that were very young, possibly not even born, when Austin last wrestled a match. And if you were, it's possible that you were super young. I mean, Austin had his final match in 2003, but really his run was over in 2001. So you're talking about 21 years ago now. If you're 25, 26 years old, you don't remember jack dick about Stone Cold's run. So it's cool for these fans to be able to actually say they watched a Stone Cold Steve Austin match. If you're in the crowd and you're a kid, think if you're 10 years old, you got to see a Stone Cold Steve Austin match live in person. 10 years old, little fucker. So that's lucky. That's awesome. Soak it in, enjoy it, appreciate it. And that's all I was trying to do. I was trying to appreciate that moment. This wasn't a retirement to me as I was watching this match and as I was watching these two brawl. With each passing moment, I was like, this doesn't feel like a retirement to me that's going to make me wish it didn't happen, or a retirement undoing that's going to make me wish it didn't happen. Because like I said, if you can figure out a way to come out of retirement where it can greatly benefit somebody and you can get a lot of value out of it and it benefits the right person, it's the right situation, and you do so in a way that it doesn't tarnish your own legacy, then I'm all for it. Because some of these retirements, yeah, we as wrestling fans roll our eyes at retirements sometimes, but as long as they're not like Shawn's in Saudi Arabia, they can really be done to benefit talent. And to me, not only was it so surreal and cool for me to watch a Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling match, I'm watching Kevin Owens in the main event of WrestleMania. To me, that was every bit as cool as watching Sasha and Bianca do it last year. This is somebody I've always wanted this for. In a lot of ways, this is even bigger than the championship. So for Owens to go out there, it doesn't even matter. He can get stunned and pinned right in the middle. For me, even if he does that, it's still a win for Kevin Owens. Owens comes away from this as a winner, no matter how much beer is poured on his face. He wins here. And to be able to work with a legend like Austin, nobody, has been bigger than Austin other than Hogan in terms of just overall, fan pop and reaction and merchandise sales. Austin's one of the biggest ever. Owens is of the new generation of wrestler, and Austin agreed to come back and work with him. Imagine the pride, I think we got to see Owens on Broken Skull Sessions. We do in like a year's time, maybe a year from now when all this shit ends. He can be on there. That would be great. Unless he's already done one. I don't think he has. That would be a lot of fun. But I'm just so happy for him to be able to be in that position and for Austin to do that for him and to agree to come back and work with him and potentially risk your legacy and he didn't. They worked well together, man. They were brawling around. Yeah, I mean, if you're watching it with the understanding that Austin is 50-something years old and he hasn't wrestled in 20 years, and you're not watching this match like it's a Ricochet match, you're watching it like it's a mid-50s Austin match who hasn't wrestled in 2 decades, then I thought it was a very passable match. And the brawling and all that shit on the outside was all they needed to do. Austin took a suplex on the concrete, I think, when they were out in the crowd, right? He would pay Owens back for that later on the stage, give him a receipt for it. But that was nuts, taking that suplex, a guy of his age. So after all that brawling, they find themselves back over the barricade into the ringside area. And like I said, Austin had driven that ATV out. This is my favorite part. I put it in the thumbnail. And Owens goes to try to get on the ATV and start it, but he can't start it up. So I guess Hulk Hogan must have taught Owens how to start that thing, because he couldn't start the Undertaker's motorcycle that time, and he can't get it moving. And the funniest shit is Austin finally comes up from behind of Kevin Owens and nails him and then sits on it with him. And Kevin Owens is like slumped over, and Austin is behind him. And Owens is just kind of slumped over the handlebars there. Austin starts up the ATV, and he drives Owens up the ramp in just a great spot. Pulls him off the ATV, and that's when he hits him with the suplex on the stage. Austin gets Owens all the way back in the ring. He starts drinking beer, maybe a little bit prematurely, busts out the Broken Skull Lager, starts drinking all the beer, and I think even maybe starts to pour a little bit on Owens, but Owens is able to recover when Austin isn't looking and hit a really good-looking stunner on Austin. Not only did he hit it well, Austin sold it well. Looked like $1 million. Couldn't believe it. Super close near fall. Nearly beat Austin with his own move. Owens then introduces a chair, and they do the spot that we've seen a few times. He goes to hit Austin. Austin ducks. The chair bounces off the top rope, smacks Kevin Owens right in the face. Boom. Austin hits him with the stunner, pins him for the win, and celebrates with the crowd in just a great moment. Big sigh of relief after the 3 count, because even though I'm excited and I'm enjoying what I'm seeing, I'm gritting my fucking teeth because I'm so terrified for Austin. I just don't want to see some sort of catastrophe or accident or just a match where he just can't do anything or whatever. So I'm glad it all came off well. I thought the match, for what it was, when you think about what you're actually looking at here, I think the match was just fine. And I think Austin performed well, in this setting, main eventing a WrestleMania, coming back and main eventing a WrestleMania in pretty much an impromptu match, the one that was advertised but not advertised. We knew we were going to see a fight. We thought it was going to be a match at first, then a Kevin Owens show, now an actual match. And Kevin Owens now gets to be the guy to have his last match against Stone Cold Steve Austin. And like I said, I don't know the details of what went into convincing Austin to work another match again. But the fact that Owens now gets to be that guy instead of The Rock, because does The Rock really need to be known as the guy that had Austin's last match at this point? I mean, he's fucking the biggest movie star in Hollywood. So giving this accolade to somebody else is kind of nice. And, like I said, I'm trying to put myself in Owens' shoes. I'm a little bit older than Owens, but I still probably had a lot of the same heroes as him, in the wrestling world. And I'm just trying to think about that from a fan's perspective. Getting to work against somebody that you marked out for when you were young has got to be an unbelievable thrill. And he worked really hard to make Austin look good here. He was selling everything. And I appreciate that from Owen. So he gave Austin as much as he could. And in turn, Austin worked with him and gave him the rub, and now Owens not only gets the main event of WrestleMania, but he also has the accolade of facing Austin in his last match, unless Austin came back here so he could get a Saudi Arabia payday. If he did it once, he could do it again, right? I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that this was it. It was a one-and-done deal. WrestleMania main event, perfect setting, Texas crowd, working with Owens, giving this guy some rub. This is going to make him. He's going to be able to draw back and look back on this moment for the rest of his career and talk about it at length all the time, especially when he retires and he goes into the Hall of Fame. He's going to specifically mention and thank Stone Cold Steve Austin for this. Mark my words, he will. And hopefully Austin will induct him. Well, maybe Sami Zayn will. I'm looking way ahead. We're talking 15 years in the future, probably 20. But it would be cool to see old man Austin in his walker with a little cup holder for his beer out there in the front row of the Hall of Fame watching Kevin Owens' speech one day. So It was a career-making match for Owens. That makes me happy as a wrestling fan because Owens is one of my favorite guys. Now, Austin continues then to celebrate in the ring with the beers like only he can do. And then Byron Saxton gets back in the ring. Now, I think the last time these guys were in the ring together was back when COVID happened and Byron got kicked in the balls by Austin in the Performance Center. So he gets in the ring and then he eats a stunner from Austin. And I'm like, no. Wait a minute here. Did Byron Saxton just main event WrestleMania? Tell me Byron Saxton did not just main event WrestleMania. I have to quit. Remember that? Remember the Wings tribute channel? April Fool's joke? It's legit. It's happening now. Byron Saxton main evented a WrestleMania. It was kind of funny that Austin got the last laugh on Saxton. That was kind of crazy. And as he's celebrating, he's got his bro in the ring. Think I've seen pictures of his brother before, but never really in a wrestling setting. So he had him in the ring with him celebrating. That was kind of nice to see as well. And Austin got his WrestleMania moment. Now he wins his last match instead of loses it. And to me, it was a land on your feet situation. You know, this is a retirement that you're undoing and you are risking a lot, and to be able to do it and execute it and pull it off to perfection had to have been a very nerve-wracking thing for all parties involved. I know it's nerve-wracking for me just as a fan. I can't imagine what it was like for these dudes. So all of that being said, I think they did phenomenally, and really happy with the outcome of that. So yeah, as I go through and I've been talking about these matches one by one, yeah, there really wasn't a bad part of this match. So maybe I was undershooting it. I was surprised by the grades you guys were giving it. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, A+. I was like, oh, maybe I didn't know if I had it graded that high. But as I go through here and you think about the outcomes of all of these matches and what happened, I was pretty much happy with everything. Devastated about Rick Boogs, but I was pleasantly surprised with Logan Paul's performance. My girl, Bianca Belair, got on the map. They didn't belt Ronda Rousey, which made me happy. Cody created a WrestleMania moment, one of the best of all time. And Charlotte and Ronda wound up having a surprisingly good match. And Stone Cold Steve Austin worked a professional wrestling match, actually worked a match, and got his hand raised in victory in the main event of WrestleMania. What the fuck is there to complain about? So, good job, WWE. Good luck, men and women, on night 2 following that. I think it was pretty good. I think tonight was fun. It's what wrestling is all about, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm ready for tomorrow. So that is it for the results here. We can now chill in the chat. I'm going to answer these super chats, see if you guys have anything else interesting to say. And then I'll get out of here and probably cook some dinner or something because it is now 10:45. So yeah, if you're watching on the East Coast, it's 1 a.m. We did the same thing last night. I was up here really late. I think we were up here until 3 a.m., nearly 3 a.m. on the East Coast. It was almost midnight here when I signed off from my Hall of Fame review. So, yeah. Let me see. Why are we deleting not rarely evens messages? Oh, maybe you're spamming. Just don't write the same shit every time. That's all I ask. Isaiah, I got yours. Alan Barkley, good to see you, man. Appreciate that $5. WrestleMania 38, night 1 exceeded my expectations, but I'm more intrigued and interested in night 2, especially with Reigns versus Lesnar. Hey, dude, you're like me. You and I are in a little club. It's called the We Don't Hate the Roman and Brock Club, or the Roman and Brock Match Club. I am really excited to see these two work. The fans are really hung up on the fact that it's like the 7th time they've faced, but to me, 7 matches in 7 years ain't that many. And when you think about their first encounter back in 2015, that lame-ass tug-of-war, Roman, wasn't really ready yet for prime time. Fans weren't receiving him well and accepting him. And the match, I wasn't really looking that forward to the match. It took Seth Rollins cashing in just to save the damn thing. And when you look at what these two guys have done since then and the career path that they've both took and the evolution that they've both gone through to where they are now, to me, that's what makes this match interesting, is the fact that they have faced each other before, and now it's under completely different circumstances. That shit's not lost on me. And I think it's lost on everybody else because everybody else is just hung up on the fact that it's happened a few times. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Could have been the 100th time for all I care. But I do believe, though, as I said in my predictions last night, I predicted Roman to win because if he doesn't, that means he's going to get a rematch against Brock because you don't hold the title for 6,000 days and then just not get a rematch. So if he loses, that means we get Roman and Brock again, and this has got to be the cutoff point. WrestleMania's got to be it. Roman beating Brock, getting that monkey off his back, solidifying himself as the man. 2 championships now. That moment, Brock probably going to be taking some time off anyway. If you've noticed, he's been on TV a lot since he came back at SummerSlam. If he wins tomorrow, that means he's going to be on TV even more. Does that sound like Brock to you? Sounds like Brock's probably going to be taking off and going back up to his home in the woods for a few months before resurfacing whenever. But I think Roman's got to win tomorrow just for his legacy, for what it means for the future of their storylines. And when he does win, if he does win, I want him losing to really benefit somebody. Brock is a guy that doesn't need to be made any more than he is. He can be handing out losses all the time now. Brock is still going to be Brock. If you are going to beat Roman Reigns after this amount of time, don't let Brock do it. Have somebody else do it, And I love Brock. I'm as entertained by Brock as I have ever been, now more than ever. Same goes for Roman Reigns. I've never been a fan of these guys more than I am right now, but I still think it's better for Roman to win. I'm ready for it, Alan. I'm ready for it. Who's next? Adam O. 2 more from you. Appreciate that, dude. Austin and Taker made me feel like a kid again. Yeah, we had Austin, Undertaker going to the Hall of Fame, Austin main eventing. Crazy. Blows my mind. Let me see who's next. Lost it. There we go. Luigi DeRaw Gaming, is it you? That $9 one? Yeah, I think it's you. Nobody else above you. All right, cool. Thank you so much for that, dude. Welcome back. Glad you're here. Appreciate that $9.99. Since Belair is undefeated at Mania, who breaks the streak? I haven't even really realized that she has a streak yet. Well, she has 2 matches. I don't know if we can be talking streak for her yet. I think there's other people that have longer streaks than her, isn't there? So I don't know. I'm not really thinking about Bianca's Mania streak at this point. I think it's just simply by accident. They're not actively trying to make her undefeated. It's just the situations are lining up where she's going to win her match when that comes around. And that's what how a lot of streaks just begin, because it just depends on what you're doing that year, who you're feuding with. And if the storyline or the angle kind of calls that this is going to be your time to lose and it happens to be your WrestleMania match, then you're going to lose. Just depends on where you're at. But once you get to a few, then I think the company needs to take notice and say, okay, hey, by the way, she's 5-0 now. So if we're going to beat her, let's think about it first, that type of thing. So until we get there, I'm not too concerned about that. We should do some talk about the main roster call-ups or NXT call-ups. NXT Stand and Deliver was very early this morning. I actually had to get up early, too, to go down to work for a meeting for an hour, which really annoyed me. It disrupted my sleep and my lovely WrestleMania weekend schedule where I eat junk food and don't shower. So I had to go into work for a little bit this morning, but I came home to watch a little bit of Stand and Deliver. And Gunther, I didn't realize how much weight Walter had shed. I don't know if I like it or not. I mean, he's in great shape, probably athletically. He's more in better shape than he's ever been, but it made him a little bit less intimidating. I don't know. That's just kind of my view on it. But in terms of, what WWE wants, they want a physique on a guy. And I think it's hard to call him Gunther. I think Walter looks great. And he beat LA Knight. LA Knight's a guy who's, I don't know how old he is, but I want to say it's late 30s. You cannot be screwing around for too long with LA Knight. He's got main roster potential. He can talk. He's got that promo ability. The charisma is all there. He's got that half Austin, half Rock persona going for himself that's just kind of tailor-made for main roster TV. And since Gunther beat him, I think LA Knight should potentially show up tomorrow or on SmackDown. For sure. And possibly even Braun Breaker, because Braun Breaker lost in the main event. Dolph Ziggler keeps the title. And that didn't bother me. A lot of fans were really mad. Who cares? NXT, look what they did to the black and gold. Does anybody really give a fuck what they do over there? I don't. So Gilbert could win the title. I don't care. So Dolph Ziggler won the title. He's a veteran that's can probably just offer a lot for that locker room. Just be a guy there to be your veteran champion for a while until you figure out the next guy, because maybe the WWE just decided that Braun Breaker has just got too much potential. Aside from that stupid name, he's just got too much of untapped, unlimited potential that they just want to start as early as possible with him. Brock and Randy Orton got their starts super early. And Randy Orton's a second-generation guy, just like Breaker is. So they might just see dollar signs in him, and they might want to get him up to the main roster. as soon as possible so they can start working them and building them, that sort of thing. But I certainly didn't care. I wasn't upset that Dolph Ziggler retained the NXT title. What the fuck do I care? And who was it? Mandy Rose retained her women's title. And we have new tag team champions. Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai picked up the tags over Toxic Attraction. So I think all in all, the show was pretty good. Oh, and Ciampa. I should mention Ciampa. Ciampa lost to, what is that guy's name? Tony Mama Luke or something, whoever the fuck that is. He beat him. And as he's making his exit, Triple H comes out to hug him. It looks like this was his last day in NXT. He tweeted out or put on Instagram some sort of a photo with a couple of his start date in NXT and the date of Stand and Deliver, which was indication that he was not going to be in NXT anymore. But this kind of made me think he might actually be leaving. I don't know. I assume this just meant a main roster call-up for him. I don't think he's full-blown leaving NXT and the WWE company in general. I don't think he is, but he might be. So if anybody has the word on that, or if they've seen anything on the interwebs or online, please let me know. But I always like to see Triple H do that. And just to see Triple H in general, he was around a lot this weekend. You know, we saw him just a few days ago announcing his retirement on Stephen A. Smith. He was present for the Undertaker's statue unveiling this weekend, and he was a part of this here at NXT. And he's been around. So I think it's always nice when you see him coming out and saluting his kids. You know, Triple H probably does feel like a father to a lot of this talent. And just for him to be there and be backstage for that is probably a thrill for a lot of the talent to see him back there. The same goes for that meeting. He was present at that talent meeting that everybody said went really well, was very positive, and they felt good about it coming out of it. And that's great news, because this type of stuff has been nothing but negative coming outside of WWE. Every time you hear a talent meeting or something, it ruffles feathers. So the fact that WWE now might even be saying to themselves, all right, we got to stop being dicks. We got to stop controlling every aspect of these wrestlers' lives, because they now have options on where to go. We can't control anything anymore. So Twitch and third-party moneymakers could definitely be a deciding factor in someone's contract, especially if you have a talent that does a lot of that stuff, like a lot of Twitch streaming or whatnot. So the fact that this is going to be allowed again in the WWE locker room, I think was out of necessity. They need to do that, because that shit's important to a lot of people. And so now when talent's contracts are up, they can know that they can keep all that. Because I would make sure, if it was something that was that important to me and I had leverage and I was somebody that WWE wanted, and it was basically, they need me, I don't really need them type of thing, I would say, I ain't signing shit, motherfucker, until you give me free reign to twitch my ass off every day, all day, and keep every red cent. And you're not seeing a dime, Vince, then I'll sign. I would work hard. I would work my entire career to become a star just to put myself in that position. That would be my WrestleMania, is to be able to make a contract demand to a company that just completely tries to control you in every aspect. You can cut your fucking hair, what you can do. Can you get a tattoo? That sort of thing. What color you can wear. All that stuff. Fuck you. I'm going to do what I want. I love that stuff. So I'm glad that they're backing off that a little bit, because they need not disgruntle their talent. Why would you do that? You know, I don't understand why they always like deliberately try to piss off their own talent. But now maybe they realize that they can't blow smoke anymore, or as much smoke. They're still going to blow smoke, but maybe they can't blow as much smoke, and they can't jerk people around anymore, you know, because now they can bounce if they want to get out of there. So that's good news. Good news all around in WWE. Been a good weekend so far. Big day tomorrow. We still have to get through night 2. Oh, yeah, don't forget OnlyFans. Yeah, got to get your OnlyFans in there, too. Oh, Tony D'Angelo, Tony Mama Luke. Who was Tony Mama Luke? That was the ECW guy, I think. Tony Mama Luke. Well, let's call him Tony Mama Luke. He's going to be Tony Mama Luke from now on. Oh, that's cool. Rarely even. Cody's doing an A&E is doing a special on Dusty, and Cody's going to be an executive producer. Again, all this stuff was probably discussed, you know, in the plans for Cody. We've got a partnership with A&E. We already did a bunch of documentaries last year. They're going to do some more. We'd like to do one on your dad. How'd you like to be a part of it? All that stuff's probably very attractive to Cody. You know, I can understand. I don't understand why fans don't understand why he why he jumped. I'm like, well, you're probably never going to understand because you're never going to have an option like that. You're never going to have a business decision like that to make. So of course you don't understand it, but when you really think about it, I would never judge Cody. He's not dumb. He's going to go, and I've preached this before, choose opportunities over dreams. You'll be much more successful. And I think that's what Cody's doing. He knows he's going to get exposure. He's going to get money. He's going to, solidify his legacy, hopefully as a big WWE legend or star, really pay tribute to his dad this run while he's there, and potentially even head back to AEW in the future. Many fans fully expect Cody Rhodes to go back to AEW. I don't think that's a given. It depends on how his run goes. This is going to be very important, how his run goes in the company. If it's just kind of a mediocre run where he's doing a lot of the same redundant shit every week, when his contract is up, unless they just throw a ton of money at him, what's going to be his real motivation to stick around and do that? Now that he's already got a good 4 years there, he's maybe held the championship, upped his legacy a little bit, maybe even upped his value and his worth to where Tony Khan can, then say, hey, we'd love to have you back, and now I'll pay you this because now you're a former WWE champion coming in, that sort of thing. So Cody might have all these ideas in his head and his plans for his future, the best path to go on. And right now he feels WWE is the best place for him, and things do change. I know that a year or so ago he said he would never leave AEW, but shit changes. How many people get married every day and swear that they will stay with them until death do they part, and then they get divorced because things change. So it's like fans got to be a little bit more open-minded about this, and stop, just I can't believe you did it. It's like, it's not really your job to believe it or to understand it. There's nothing for you to understand because has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with him and Brandy and his family. It's not you. So to judge that harshly just because you're clutching the pearls of whatever side of the idiot war you're on is dumb. It's just fucking dumb. So let Cody make his own decision, see how it goes. Now, if Cody's run in WWE is a complete failure, then I'm sure you'll get all the fans that are going to brag on Twitter, I told you. But I also think that Cody is not just going to go to WWE, like I said, and say, do what you want to me. You can have me. I sign away my entire life. I won't even take a shit unless I ask your permission first. Cody didn't do that. He didn't do that at all. They probably laid out plans, maybe even storyline ideas, maybe promised him a title run. I think all of that is very possible. And if they have outside projects, which Cody obviously likes to do, the Go Big Show thing and the show he has with Brandy, WWE likes to do that shit too because Miz and Maurice have a show. Corey and Carmella have some disgusting show that I'm not going to watch 1 minute of. If you send me a clip, I'm blocking you. So they already know how to do that kind of stuff, and Cody can probably find his way into outside projects using WWE as that bridge. They've made movies. They've got lots of connections to Hollywood. Fucking Roman Reigns was on Jimmy Fallon and all this stuff. They have got more connections there and more relationships in place than AEW does. Not because they're better or greater than AEW, because they've been around for 60 years and AEW's been around for 3. That's the reality of it. So Cody knows this. And so if he does have desire to get his name out there beyond wrestling or do more or be a reality show star or do whatever, he honestly probably is going to have more of those opportunities in WWE. If you're a wrestler that just wants to go out in the ring and just have kick-ass matches and put over the stars of the future like Bryan Danielson does, then AEW is the better place for you. But Danielson and Cody are two very different people and two very different types of professional wrestlers. And their situations are different. Not everybody's situation is the same. Some people have different motivations. Some people have different desires. Some people want a bigger spotlight. Some people don't want so much of the spotlight. It just depends. So in Cody's situation, I can understand why he made the jump. It's still shocking. Still had a lot of people in disbelief, and it was very surreal to see him coming out there, and so cool too when he came out to all that. At the end of the day, it's a decision he made, and it'll be fun to see how it unfolds. But I think he's going to be treated very well. I think he's going to do a lot of. He's going to do a lot to honor his father, like I said, in this run. His last time, he was still kind of young, and he was part of Legacy, and he wasn't really a top player yet. Intercontinental champion, had some gimmick changes a little bit, had some tag team partners here or there with Randy, with Ted Jr., with his brother. Then he went into the Stardust stuff, and, he just wasn't creatively fulfilled. So he left went Ring of Honor, went Japan, worked around the world, built up his name and his stock, and was able to come back into the company now after a couple of years in AEW, command big money, and come in as the big star that he always wanted to be there. So, he did he did the same thing Drew McIntyre did. It's just McIntyre just didn't have time to sign with a competing organization because AEW wasn't around then. So, he came in after leaving. And like I said, this is going to feel like a homecoming for Cody. You got to remember, he was there for a long time prior to him leaving, and he only left 6 years ago. So there's a lot of talent there that he came up with in the developmental area that he worked with. And there's a lot of backstage people he probably still knows. He probably still knows cameramen, probably kept in touch with a lot of the people on the main roster, even Seth Rollins. These guys go way back. Pretty sure Cody and Dustin beat Seth and Roman for the tag team titles or something on Raw. So they've had matches with each other before. So there's a lot of people in WWE that Cody knows and is probably comfortable around. And he's probably happy to be back there. It's weird, granted, but that's the beauty of having competition. That's what so many fans don't seem to understand, because they immediately take to Twitter to offer some shitty take that just basically says, I don't know what I'm talking about. Because you don't remember how cool defections can be. You don't know how cool it is to have two competing companies in the same country competing against each other on cable TV, to where talent contracts can come up and they can jump, or somebody can be released, or somebody can be fired, or whatever. You can have talent moving around now. This is the way it has always been done. Tony Khan is not obsessed with ex-WWE guys any more than WCW or ECW was obsessed with ex-WWE guys. You're going to pick people that have played the sport before. You're not going to damn, all the Lakers do is just hire other basketball players. If you're a professional wrestling company, you're going to hire professional wrestlers, preferably ones that the fans know, because you have a TV show and people need to tune into this TV show and see people they recognize. And you need to balance the people that the fans recognize with your up and coming stars, which AEW has done. They are not WWE talent heavy where it's just all them. That's what TNA did. History lesson. You don't have to go very far to see that in reality. Where AEW, I think, is doing a much better job than TNA is balancing out the established stars that they were able to sign from WWE and the stars they're trying to make at the same time. And they are less than 3 years old. It's been 2.5 years since they had their first AEW Dynamite. And fans talk about AEW like they've been around for 20 years. Boy, they better shape it up. They're really on a decline. I'm like, they haven't even had a chance to be on a decline yet. We've gone through so much shit and COVID and everything. They haven't even really had a chance to grow. And they're still putting up comparable numbers. Yes, 1 million viewers a week sucks if you're comparing it to 1998 numbers. But when you're comparing it to WWE, who outside of Red, they're putting up pretty good numbers right now. But if it's not WrestleMania season, Raw is in the 1.5 to 1.8 area. Dynamite's 1.1. Is that really that far off? To me, that's pretty decent for a company that's been around 3 years, competing against somebody with a 6, count 'em, decade head start. It's common sense. Just the way it is. And I remember back in the days of WCW and WWE and ECW had a third promotion in there, which was cool. To see these guys jump and ship was one of the most enjoyable things about professional wrestling during that time. And to watch all the fans now take this shit for granted, I'm like, you're going to regret it. You're going to get old and look at what an idiot you were and how you acted during this, instead of sitting back and enjoying it because you feel that a lot of people just troll because they feel AEW is overly praised. You know how I know that? Because that's how this channel got started. I was watching people online say that WWE was going to be out of business in 2 years because TNA was going to take over the wrestling world. And I'm like, whoa, I'm annoyed with WWE just as much as the next guy, but let's not be stupid. And I let that get to me. And now I see the same people and seeing people make the same mistakes, is that the only reason you're going out of your way to troll and say anti-AEW shit is because you get annoyed with the praise that they get. Just don't worry about the praise that they get. Don't read it. I enjoy AEW's programming more than WWE, and even I don't see that to the degree that some people claim they see it. Oh, it's a cult or everything, WWE, AEW, they're both nuts. The fans are both nuts. Stop bitching at each other. Enjoy when Cody's and Jeff Hardy's and guys like that bounce around, because it makes it fun. If the rosters just stay the same and stagnant, then you just kind of run out of matches to do. But when you have two companies and guys are moving around, my God, it can be so much fun if you will just let it be. So don't worry about your opinions, because your opinions are wrong. And when people say that Tony Khan only signs WWE guys, That's wrong. That's not what he does. And usually when guys jump ship, they're going to come from one of the other companies, and you're going to see it going the other way now, and it's starting to. Cody was a big get. Cody was a huge get for WWE. I guess Vince only signs ex-AEW guys. You're going to start having people say that now. Oh, by the way, shout out to WWE's. What channel was it? Or what page was it? WWE's page. I got to find it. Oh, yeah, WWE on BT Sport. Did you see that? Can I save this and put it on the screen here? They spoofed AEW's All Elite shit, and they put his lyrics, Adrenaline in My Soul, WWE signs Cody Rhodes, and then they've got the Cody is WWE instead of the Cody is All Elite. This is probably not the right, yeah, it's a GIF file. It's not going to let me put it in here. Nope, it's not the right thing, and I don't feel like changing it. But anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. You saw it. That was great. I love that they're playing along. It's fucking slam dunk. Dunk on AEW. Why not? AEW will bounce back, and they've got a hell of a Dynamite set for Monday now that Samoa Joe is there. We got Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, and CM Punk all working for a company that owns Ring of Honor. Holy crap. Possibilities, man. So it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. Wrestling benefited greatly this weekend. There's all sorts of shows. Everybody piggybacks off WrestleMania. The GCW and the Ring of Supercard of Honor, which I'm still yet to see the Briscoes and FTR match. If anybody has that and you want to kick a link to me over on Twitter, please do. Otherwise, I'm sure I can find it, but I've yet to watch it, and I really want to because I've been told it's the greatest tag team match of all time. I'll be the judge of that, but it's possible. Hearing nothing but good things. No, it's not a GIF. It's what is this? The file is, it's a J. It's so jacked. JFIF file. So basically I just have to open my photo editor, change it to a JPG or a PNG in order to throw it here on the thing. But that's a process that's going to take a minute. So I wasn't too worried about it. But that's the way computers go, I guess. Do I see Roderick Strong doing anything on the main roster? Not really. Not really. Yeah, we could get a Cody and Brandy versus Miz and Maurice match, possibly. That's true. Oh, Chris B., what's going on, man? Sorry, I missed that super chat a minute ago. Thank you very much for the $5. Hey, Greg, been a fan since 2012. What was your moment of the night? Mine was seeing Austin live for the first time. Can't wait for the next two shows. Were you there? Or you mean just seeing Austin live on TV, or were you actually in the arena? That's pretty great. I'm a very lucky Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. I got to watch Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestle live in person during the peak of his career. I have been touched by Stone Cold Steve Austin in a hardcore match with him and The Rock. They were fighting right in front of me, and I even hurt my elbow. I watched Austin win the WWE title in person twice, and I saw him live many, many times, more times than I can even count. Matches, promos, championship matches, house shows, pay-per-views, Raws, you name it. I saw him everywhere, and I'm gonna be happy that I'm gonna die knowing that I got to see Austin in his prime. So I'm very happy for you. And I mentioned that earlier about the young fans in the audience now, today's generation that were maybe either not born when Austin had his last match or extremely young, like in diapers type of stuff. So if you're there now as a teenager or young adult and are able to see in person or watch on pay-per-view a Stone Cold Steve Austin match, that's awesome. So I'm happy for you, man. And I'm happy for anyone who's younger that got a chance to experience Austin, especially if you were in the crowd. That was probably incredible. One, Rowdy Hunter. Appreciate the 2 from you. Do you think The Fiend is going back to WWE? I kind of thought we might low-key see him tonight. I ain't going to lie. He was one of those off-the-wall, bold predictions that I kind of had in my head that I thought we could potentially see tonight. But we didn't see The Fiend. I still think he could potentially come out tomorrow. I know he was in Dallas for the WrestleCon, which doesn't mean anything really, but I thought about this a couple weeks ago. You know, he hasn't turned up anywhere else really. I know he's been doing some other projects, but he's a guy that I could see potentially WWE phoning up and saying, hey, you want to talk? Maybe we'll come back. Maybe we'll bring you back. They still mention The Fiend. He was involved in a couple of video packages this year. Vince McMahon even brought him up in the Undertaker's Hall of Fame induction, I believe. So I kind of thought he could still maybe turn up either tonight, maybe tomorrow, or maybe even on Raw. So I would love to see Wyndham Rotundo go to AEW. That would be fun. But if WWE brought back Bray Wyatt as The Fiend and didn't fuck it up this time, I'd be willing to see that too. That could be fun. And imagine the crowd response if he shows up. Do you think he would be? I don't think he would be the type of guy to show up at the end of the Brock Lesnar-Roman Reigns match and confront Roman. I can't see that happening. Maybe The Rock, though. I'm hoping we do get some sort of surprise. I mean, we got the big Cody moment tonight, and we got Austin. So I'm hoping tomorrow they counterbalance that with some sort of major surprise, like a return or something like that. Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville tomorrow. I'd like to see Steve-O do something. Hopefully he's in town for this, to see him fucking parachute or zip line or bungee jump. Probably shouldn't do that out of respect for Owen, but do something crazy to make some grand entrance in the match and help Johnny Knoxville beat Sami Zayn. That might be fun. And plus Steve-O's nuts, so he's willing to take a risk. So that could be fun. Who knows? But we might get something out of that match that could be interesting. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to be really chomping at the bit to see the main event and see how that goes between Roman and Brock. And I hope that we get similar moments here tomorrow that we got tonight, because between Bianca winning, Austin main eventing with Owens, and of course Cody showing up, it's pretty good night one, and going to be hard to beat that tomorrow night. Yeah, so I'm going to see if there's any final super chats in here to answer, and then I think I'm going to get out of here because it's kind of late. Luigi to Raw Gaming, appreciate 2 more from you. Seth should blame Cody's neck tattoo for losing. Yeah, he should. That fucking thing. I had to redo my overlay twice because I did one a couple of days ago, and I knew I should have waited to do my stream stuff until like today, because WWE would switch matches all the time. But they initially had Edge and AJ Styles set for night 1, and I originally had them on here, so I had to redo all that shit today. I forgot. Yeah, Edge and AJ Styles, by the way. That one is tomorrow. That's going to be the one to look at, I think. I think that could be the one with the biggest surprise and the biggest potential for just being a really, really good, solid match. And I'm really hoping that we see Damian Priest. I cannot believe that WWE has not booked Priest or Ricochet or Balor on the show. I'm hoping we might get something thrown at us tomorrow with the two of them. Hell, our main event on night 1 was an unannounced match, technically. So why can't you throw an IC or a US title match at us at the last minute? If you're going to unify the world titles, maybe you put Balor and Ricochet in the ring and unify those fuckers. I'd be into that. Finn Balor, Ricochet, winner take all, merge the US and IC titles. I would love it if they did that tomorrow. But if they did that, they'd be doing it with no announcement, no build, no nothing. They would just do it to do it. So it probably wouldn't work. But I'm hoping that maybe Damian Priest makes his presence known in the AJ Styles and Edge match, because there has been rumors about Edge starting a faction, and Damian Priest would be a perfect guy to join that faction, since the two of them have already interacted on TV a few times and have respect for each other. So I'm hoping we see that. Would be cool to see The Fiend pop up. Would be cool to see Bayley come back or an Asuka come back, but there's really not a place for them to return unless they come out in that tag team match, which I can't see that happening, and I don't care who wins that tomorrow at all. So the women aren't really that heavily featured unless there's one I'm missing tomorrow. I don't think there is. So maybe all those returns could be saved for Monday or Friday. Like I said, Asuka, Bayley, or both, I would love to see. And maybe anybody else that's currently out. Lacey Evans, I know she had the baby. Not sure if she's ready for ring action yet, but she could turn back up. And NXT call-ups are all a possibility for this week of TV shows. Before I get out of here, Dustin, what's my match of the night? What is my match of the night? Austin. Austin and Owens, I got to go with. It's almost a 3-way tie. I enjoyed Austin and Owens, Cody and Seth, and Bianca and Becky almost equally. Bianca and Becky more so for the finish. Was just really excited to see Bianca get that moment again. So those 3 are almost like kind of tied in my mind, but hey, we sat down together and watched a Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling match in 2022. What beats that? Nothing. Good stuff. Right on. All right. Oh, Barry MK. Fiend and Bayley teaming would be a wet dream of yours. Maybe Bayley could turn into what Alexa was, and she could be like Broken Bayley. Ooh, Broken Bayley sounds good. I think Bayley would be good being nuts, don't you? But Bayley's going to be fans are really going to want her back. To do some sort of drastic character change like that with her right upon her return would be weird. Fans are going to want to soak in her comeback. That's for sure. I know I'm ready to. Well, you guys have a good night. Thank you very much for being here for the night 1 review. That was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully night 2 will be just as good. And join us tomorrow night immediately following the show. Go over to my YouTube channel right now. I forgot to put the link up in the description again. But cruise over to my channel right now. You can save it for later. I'll also put a link up on Twitter and all that good stuff before tomorrow. And yeah, we'll be back at it again after night 2. And we'll be talking about whoever is the unified world champion. I think it's going to be Roman Reigns. Y'all have a good night.